Greetings, fellow skeptics and lovers of Western culture in a way that is definitely not racist. Today, I'm gonna show you how offended and oversensitive the snowflake liberal left is nowadays by making a tedious video in which I whine about a fictional mermaid being black now and how this is somehow anything other than a banal casting choice deliberately made to rile up people like me and provide Disney with free marketing as well as increase ticket sales from people like me who will buy a ticket to see the film to hate watch it and complain about it afterwards to people who hate people like me and who'll go to watch it to show Disney that audiences support decisions like this. I am a mature adult man with a gratingly irritating voice and a lot more subscribers than you, which makes me uniquely placed to make statements like this is a bad idea and this is literally proof that Disney is trying to erase white men, which is objectively a bad thing, but I promise I'm not a racist. I believe only in facts and logic, and the feelings of anger and sadness I feel about one character in a movie not being white is not an example of me being emotional or putting feelings over facts. It is in fact my way of demonstrating that Disney is alienating its main audience for its princess movies, that of course being white men in their mid to late 20s. God, I'm so logical. Greetings once again, fellow skeptics and lovers of Western culture, in a way that's definitely not racist, to my inner sanctum of knowledge, where I speak incredibly pretentiously to you, my audience, about the cultural Marxists, feminists and leftist degenerates ruining your favourite movies, TV shows and video games by putting gays, blacks and women with small tits in them, which, as I mentioned in the 42 videos I uploaded crying about Brie Larson, the 95 about the oppression of Kumas the game industry has been pushing by taking away our beloved big boobs for realism, and the 5 I uploaded just yesterday about the fact that a fictional man in a zombie game gets killed by a fictional muscular woman, and because I'm a fucking idiot and I've never seen a muscular woman, I'm just going to pretend that she's a trans woman based on literally zero evidence. Usually on a Thursday I would, rather than talk about movies or games for children, talk about superhero comic books, a genre entirely designed for adults pushing 40 like me, and the fact that I simultaneously gets upset when my favourite comics publisher tries to appeal to other demographics in a desperate attempt to stop their own decline, while simultaneously blaming said decline on the measures they're taking to avoid it, is totally normal and not in any way incredibly counterproductive and actively harming the art and industry I claim to care about. Today, however, rather than that, I want to jerk my dick raw out of pure hatred over some utterly innocuous faux intellectual bullshit that I fundamentally don't understand because I haven't bothered to do literally any research in this 20-minute long video in which I talk about what I reckon movies should be like, by which I mean populated exclusively by cis-het white people who support 100% of my outdated ideas on what gender roles should be, whilst completely misunderstanding the most basic fundamentals of film theory. Oh, and I'll probably cry over the fact that I didn't come once whilst watching Avengers Endgame because of the SJWs. That's right, we're talking about the hero's journey because it's all I know about film theory, so fuck it, let's not bother doing any more research before shitting out a pretentious, misinformed screed about it. What do you want from me? Nuance? Greetings, fellow skeptics and lovers of Western culture, in a way that's definitely not racist, to my mind palace of higher knowledge and objective reasoning, in which I talk exclusively about superhero movies, Star Wars and comic books, all the while insisting that I'm actually a connoisseur of classic literature, because I'm incredibly insecure about the fact that I'm so creatively bankrupt that all my attempts at writing fiction failed spectacularly, and I can't be fucking bothered to actually read any classic literature, so now rather than taking the criticisms on board and improving in any way, I'm going to give up on that dream and instead take out my frustration and bitterness over my failure by tearing down other creative people in incredibly shallow ways, mostly by failing to understand the basic fundamentals of film theory, and crying whenever I see a black person or woman in a position of power or dominance, because I'm incredibly concerned about the idea that white cis-het men are losing their position as the dominant force in media. But not like in a weird way, I just really don't want LGBTQ plus people, blacks or women in my movies for non-racist reasons, like women are weak and should only be in movies when they're written to be exactly like men. Any movie that criticizes existing power structures is made by and for SJWs because I am incapable of imagining a better way of living than the current status quo, or to stop licking this boot, and they are forcing diversity on your kids. Hey, did you know that Rey is a Mary Sue? Oh, you already do think you know that because like 500 people already made the exact same boring, misinformed video about The Last Jedi, assuming that literally anyone on the left actually has any kind of emotional attachment or investment in a mass-produced piece of art made by one of the biggest corporations on the planet? Well, I also don't understand what leftism is, so I'm going to pretend that they're as basic as I am and assume that they, like me, base a majority of their personality around fucking Star Wars. Today we're going to be talking about the fact that some feminists online are interpreting and analysing art using existing analytical frameworks in ways that I don't like, causing me to try to control their speech despite my claims to be a free speech absolutist when people criticise me for using the N-word, and demonstrating my utter lack of knowledge about topics I claim to care about and base my entire career around by getting unreasonably angry about someone pointing out that a movie I liked is potentially racist. I mean, come on, what's racist about Temple of Doom for fuck's sake?
Dessert. Chilled monkey brain.
Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind.
Greetings, fellow skeptics and lovers of Western culture in a way that's definitely not racist, and welcome to the Big Brain Zone, in which I'll be sucking my own dick about how much of a rational big boy I am for the next 10 minutes and 1 second to maximise ad revenue for the minimal amount of effort required, whilst getting incredibly upset about the existence of black and LGBTQ plus people in movies I like. But unlike the SJWs who are fighting for greater representation, I'm definitely not triggered and absolutely not an adult man whose entire life and huge parts of my personality are tied up in the fandom surrounding various media franchises aimed primarily at children. I'm absolutely not a pathetic man-child who spends hours meticulously failing to tear down other people's opinions on a work of art because I've decided that I'm actually an objective judge of media, and calling them ableist slurs for being autistic is the exact same as fair and balanced criticism. It's absolutely ridiculous to accuse me of being incredibly toxic and racist just because I platform toxic racists with barely any pushback at all, regularly misgender and dead-name trans people I don't like, and cultivate an audience of people who will go and harass anyone who dares criticise me or that I criticise on my podcast. How dare you say I have a negative influence on online media discourse? No, you see, I am a pioneer of the objective art criticism movement, and I can therefore say without a hint of irony that any kind of politics or political messaging in media is without question a definite negative, and somehow hundreds of thousands of people will agree with me when I say shit like a minor error in post-production means that this is an objectively bad movie, or spend 12 hours whining about some vlogger on the internet who didn't like a movie I thought was quite good. Let's talk about how the left are inserting politics into my movies where they don't belong, unlike my favourite movies which absolutely don't involve any politics whatsoever. God, I'm such a rational brain genius.
You don't know how hard I found it signing the order to terminate your life.
I'm surprised you had the courage to take the responsibility yourself.
Princess Leia, before your execution, I would like you to be my guest at a ceremony that will make this battle station operational. No star system will dare oppose the Emperor now.
The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
Not after we demonstrate the power of this station. In a way, you have determined the choice of the planet that will be destroyed first. Since you are reluctant to provide us with the location of the rebel base, I have chosen to test this station's destructive power on your home planet of Alderaan.
No, Alderaan is peace, but we have no weapons. You can't
You will
possibly...
prefer another target, a military target? Then name the system.
Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind.
Greetings once again, fellow skeptics and lovers of Western culture, in a way that's definitely not racist, and welcome back to the Intellectual Thunderdome, wherein we rational big boys can congratulate ourselves over how much smarter we are than feminists and cultural Marxists, which are definitely real and not based on a literal Nazi conspiracy theory, because we know there's a conspiracy by a shady but unnamed organisation of degenerates and enemies of Western society to undermine the dominance of the white race by allowing people of minority and or marginalised groups to exist in media, but they're not Jews. I promise I'm not a Nazi. That's right, as we all know, the existence of women or black people in positions of prominence or power in media can only make sense if there's a leftist liberal feminist agenda, which is definitely not a contradiction because I totally understand what liberalism is. I mean, what, you think audiences might just enjoy diversity and corporations realise that they can make more money by appealing to as wide and diverse a demographic as possible? You fucking globalist simp. Did you hear that, libcucks? I'm going to be attacking and taking down your cultural icons, which I assume are cartoons for children and superhero TV shows nobody cares about because that's what my cultural icons are, and then crying for hours and hours about people on the internet disagreeing with me about Star Wars on my podcast, whilst playing it off as just constructive criticism and a difference of opinion whilst my fans dogpile and harass my ideological enemies, but I'm totally not responsible for cultivating an incredibly toxic fan base even when I obviously hint that they should go and downvote bomb content I don't like. I have a very healthy attitude towards women, and the fact that I get unbelievably upset over not finding a child in a cartoon of little girls sexy is not indicative of any issues I might benefit from getting therapy to work on, and likewise, me saying that the only reason a black woman could ever be cast in a superhero TV show is because of some kind of diversity quota I made up doesn't imply that I have any racial bias at all. Also, Brie Larson's existence is absolutely worth creating hundreds of videos about, and I'm definitely not at Thunderfoot levels of obsession with one pretty milquetoast liberal feminist.
Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind.
Greetings, fellow skeptics and lovers of Western culture, in a way that's definitely not racist, and welcome to Xavier's School for Insufferable Pedants, in which I spend my adulthood crying on the internet about feminism and liberal identity politics on the internet like an incredibly well-adjusted person whose life is not falling apart to the point where my wife goes out for pizza alone whilst I get incredibly drunk and piss on the floor on a live stream on a regular basis. Today we're talking about how these disgusting, degenerate feminists believe that fictional women shouldn't be portrayed in absurdly sexualized and objectifying ways, and yet also believe that real-life women should be able to dress how they like, which is hypocrisy if you really twist definitions to an absurd degree. This scum want to take away my beloved anime titties and censor art, which I totally agree with if it aligns with my personal politics, like for example an episode of a TV show for kids had a gay wedding and got banned by conservative Christian governments. That's totally cool, but slightly reducing the breast size of a fictional schoolgirl who I swear is actually an immortal vampire, so the fact that she looks like a teenager forever is not creepy. That's bad censorship and should demonstrate how much the left hate artistic expression, unlike me who hates modern art and wants it banned. Honestly, these hypocritical cucks, they complain about women being drawn like this and then turn around and act like this isn't literally the same thing. What, you think this is for the benefit of men like me? Well, joke's on you, I didn't come once whilst reading this comic, so there, destroyed with facts and logic in the marketplace of ideas.
Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind. Ain't got my grind, value on my mind.
Greetings, fellow skeptics and lovers of Western culture, in a way that's definitely not racist, and welcome back to the Circle Jerk of the Superior Minds, also known as the world's longest, most tedious podcast, in which I and a few of my friends, who definitely aren't Nazis I swear, spend literal days getting mad as hell about women on the internet having unauthorized opinions about a comic book movie, including multiple very creepy comments about their appearance. But if you call us out, we will harass you on Twitter and send our legion of parasocially obsessed teenage fans to downvote bomb you and spam death threats at you. But we're not toxic, it's our fans. I mean, we won't do anything to curb or dissuade their actions or take a moment to reflect on how and why we seem to have cultivated a far-right following, but I promise that's purely coincidence. Anyway, today we're going to be discussing historical accuracy in a movie set in the past. Not because we're particularly interested or well-versed in any aspect or period of history or anything, because we're not going to really discuss anything to do with the set design or costumes or or weapons or dialogue or really anything that one can point to as an example of accurately portraying a period of history beyond the fact that there was a gay fella or a couple of black people in the movie, and that made me viscerally uncomfortable. But rather than accepting or try to deal with these feelings or really questioning why this was the thing that made me dislike it, I'm going to get mad about the SJW agenda pushing gay people who were invented in 1995 into my historical fiction where they don't belong. Also, I unironically believe that the Hollywood elite are raising white men from media, but I swear this isn't a literal Nazi conspiracy theory again. It just appears exactly the same and are spread by the exact same kinds of people, many of whom are my friends. God, I'm so rational, owning those snowflakes online by getting mad about a movie not directly pandering to me for 12 hours at a time.